Shalom guys, how are you doing? Life is amazing, Baruch Hashem. I know that we started to learn from Midrash Otiyot de Rabbi Akiva, and I wanted to continue teaching you from this wonderful book, but also remembered that a few days ago I gave a class and I explained a little bit about Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes and the fact that he was a student of Elisha Acher, and then I told the story of Elisha Acher and what had happened with him in the sky, and we came from that story to the story on the rabbi, Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, the one who wrote the prayer Ana Bechoach, and all this crazy wild adventure that we went through together. Actually I wanted to tell you a short story about Rabbi Akiva. If we're already learning from his wonderful book, and then when I wanted to say something about Rabbi Akiva, so immediately how can you not remember his great rabbi, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurcanus? So I think that even though that I wanted to tell a story about Rabbi Akiva, it's going to be more appropriate to start in talking a little bit about his great teacher, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurcanus, and we're of course going to mention Rabbi Akiva as well. So let's try, okay? Are you ready? So I told that story of the beginning of this story that I'm about to tell you right now already, but I'll skip few parts and gonna move to the next. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurcanus, when he was born, his name was Eliezer. His father was Hurcanus. Hurcanus was a very wealthy man, and Hyrcanus had many fields and a huge, gigantic property, and Eliezer, his son, was plowing the mower. That's how you say plowing. Plowing with the mower. I think that's how you say it. English is a complex language, at least for us poor Israeli ones. So this wonderful Eliezer was 27 years old, and he was plowing on that. No, it's not mower. That's not how you call it. No, it's not a mower. Now I remembered. I mistaked from another word. So he was plowing the field. He was plowing on the side of the mountain. Lawn mower, that was in my head, but it's not the right word. So Baruch Hashem, moving forward, so he was plowing on the side of the mountain, means that he was plowing in the most hardest field, that there are boulders and tractor. Yes, tractor. They didn't have tractor back then, dear brother Kim. So he was plowing on the side of the mountain, means the hardest and most solid and hard to plow ground. And one day his father came to see him plowing and saw that he's sitting on a stone and crying. So his father, Hyrcanus, asked him, "Why are you crying?" So Rabbi Eliezer told him, "I'm crying because I want to learn Torah." Okay, so his father looked at him and told him, "Listen, my son, you know you're not qualified for that. It's a hard thing for you. Maybe I'll transfer you to a better area, and the work will be easier for you over there." And he sent him to plow in the flat area. After 2 weeks he came and he saw that his son Eliezer is sitting and crying. So his father asked him, "My son, why are you crying?" Eliezer answered him, "I'm crying because I want to learn Torah. I don't want to plow, I don't want to work in the fields, I want to learn Torah." So his father told him, "Listen, my dear son, when you'll get married," so now we're talking about a kid that is 27 years old, a son of a very rich man that shouldn't work so hard, and like we don't understand why is he plowing on the side of the mountain and then continue working hard on the surface, and like why? And then his father is also telling him, one day you'll get married and your children will go and learn Torah. Means that Eliezer was facing problems of learning. He was not able to learn. He had difficulties to focus and to learn, and this is why his father sent him to work in the field, because he was not qualified to learn. It's not that they didn't have the option to bring a tutor, a teacher, a rabbi to sit with him, just that he was not able to learn. And then his father told him, when you'll get married, your children will go and learn Torah and it will be fine for you, and that's how you will fulfill your obligation of learning Torah. Eliezer kept on crying until Elijah the prophet saw him and came to visit him and asked him, why are you crying? So Eliezer answered to him, I'm crying because I want to learn Torah. Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Navi, told him, listen, you should leave your house and go to Yerushalayim, to Jerusalem. And over there in Yerushalayim, the holy city, you will meet Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, that he was the prince of Am Israel. He was the chief rabbi of our people those days. And he will teach you Torah. Another huge question, why do you need to send him to Jerusalem? Why do you need to send him to Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, the chief rabbi of the generation? Because that even Elijah the prophet himself could not fix and correct and help Eliezer. Because that Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, he had such great difficulties of learning that he had to go and learn from the greatest teacher of that generation. He was not able to learn from someone in a lower level than the level of the prince of our nation in those days. Eliezer took his things, took his iPhone, his iPad, his tablet, all the gadgets that he gathered from his father's house, and went to Yerushalayim. Of course, he went empty-handed with nothing bare to his skin except for his will to learn Torah. And went to Jerusalem and stood in front of the house of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. When Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai saw him sitting and crying, asked him, why are you crying? He said, I want to learn Torah. He told him, why didn't your father taught you Torah? Of course, no one knew who his father was and nothing about him. He hid his identity. He didn't want it to be respected for his wealth, for his father's richness. And he said, I was not able to learn. I was not learning. He told him, okay, do you know how to say Kriyat Shema? Do you know how to say Birkat HaMazon? 2 mitzvot midoraita, 2 mitzvot from the Bible that we need to say Shema Israel, the whole verse, Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. A few days ago, I got a message from a friend that recorded himself to me when saying Shema Israel, and he had a certain mistake while saying that. Of course, I didn't want to mention it to him because I didn't want it to hurt his feelings, but I realized that because that most of you guys, Hebrew is not your first language, so maybe needs to practice a lot about it because your accent is like different than ours, so it might be hard. So maybe now I'll just tell you how you say Shema, that it will be easier for you to grasp and to learn. So Shema, you say Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. The word Echad is a word that is very hard to say for English speakers, but you should practice on it. Echad, Echad. You need to say it over and over, Echad, until you're going to learn perfectly how to say that. And then we're saying another sentence. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. That is the verse that we are obligated to say twice a day, morning and evening, morning and night. Okay, so Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai asked him, did you learn how to say Shema? He said, no. Even that, to say Shema Israel, Rabbi Eliezer didn't know when he was 27 years old. 27 years old and cannot learn. Soon you're going to understand why it's so surprising. He became the rabbi of Rabbi Akiva, and listen to the story till the end. You can't imagine what's going to happen in the end. So, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurcanus is standing in front of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, and Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai is telling him, you need to learn how to say Kriyat Shema, the word to say Kriyat Shema, and taught him, and it's written over there that he repeated and repeated over and over and over, and glued with glue to his brain. He took this gorilla fast glue and put it to his brain, glued it to his brain. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurcanus learned in that day how to say Kriyat Shema. When he finished learning Kriyat Shema, Rabbi Yochanan looked at him, Rabban Yochanan is looking at him, and Rabbi Eliezer is crying again. Ask him, why are you crying? He said, because I want to learn Torah. He told him, I just taught you Kriyat Shema. He said, I want to learn more. He said, okay, I'll teach you Birkat HaMazon, and taught him how to say Birkat HaMazon, to say the blessing that we say after we're eating food, after we're eating bread. Birkat HaMazon, the blessing for the food. Said Birkat HaMazon, taught him, sat with him and taught him for hours until he learned, and he didn't stop learning, and Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai didn't stop teaching him until he caught that and learned how to say Birkat HaMazon fully and completely. After that, Rabban Yochanan looked at him again and he saw Rabbi Eliezer crying. Asked him, why are you crying? He said, because I want to learn Torah. I told him, I just taught you Kriyat Shema and Birkat HaMazon. Now you're a rich person. You can go. Be happy. Say Birkat HaMazon all day long. Say Kriyat Shema all day long. What's your problem? He said, no, I want to learn Torah. I want to learn more Torah. So Rabban Yochanan found a place for him to stay, and he found a place and stayed over there and went to sleep and was fasting and was torturing himself for a long, long time. And after a while, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai heard about the way that Rabbi Eliezer, is dedicating his time to the learnings, to the teachings, and he was barely eating and put all his effort on learning Torah. And one of the days, Rabban Yochanan came to him, to Rabbi Eliezer, and told him, listen, today in the Beit Midrash, in the place we're learning, I want you to sit and teach. I want you to sit in front of the public, in front of the students, and instead of me giving a class, I want you to give a class. Rabbi Eliezer was so scared and terrified, told him, listen, my rabbi, I'm not able to do that. All the Torah that I know is only Torah that I learned from you. I'm like a bucket of water that came out of the well. All the water that I have inside of me are water that you put inside of me. It's not my water. I can only repeat your words. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai told him, I understand that you are afraid and embarrassed to speak in front of me, so I will walk out of the room and you will continue teaching, and you can do it, and you are a spring and water are coming from inside of you. Rabbi Eliezer sat and started to teach Torah. In the same day, his father, Hurcanus, came to town. Why he came to town? Because the other children of Hurcanus, the brothers of Rabbi Eliezer, told their father Hurcanus, how can it be that our brother, that your son Eliezer, that is a lazy person, that is not helping us and not working with us in the business, in the family business, why that he shall inherit the same money that we will? Why that he will get the same money like we are? So I heard their words, so he heard their words and came to town to tell Eliezer that he will not get a penny out of his money in the future to come unless he's coming back to work with them, and he is refusing to give him any of his wealth. So he came to look for Eliezer, and he's walking between the streets and asking people where if they saw Eliezer, and he went to see Eliezer. Maybe he will find him in the Beit Midrash, in the place that he was learning. Came in, and suddenly there was a class, and people gave him a seat. All right, you can sit here. And suddenly he sees his son catching the seat of the rabbi. Like we said, Rabban Yochanan told him, you will teach the class today. So because he was embarrassed, he didn't know what to do, he sat. Hurcanus, the father, is sitting and listening to a class, first class in the life of his son, Rabbi Eliezer, that he is teaching. And the words in the book Tana de Eliezer, the stories about the Rabbi Eliezer Agadol, describing the words of Torah that came out of the mouth of Eliezer Agadol in that day, was similar in their holiness and purity to the words of Moses when he came down after 40 days from Mount Sinai. His face was shining like the face of Moses when he spoke to our people when he came down from Mount Sinai. That was the level of Torah that he achieved because of his will and dedication, even though that he was so ignorant. He didn't know in age 27 even how to say Shema, even how to say Birkat Hamazon, the blessing on the food. So, in the end of the class, Rabban Yochanan came to Rabbi Eliezer and kissed him on his head, and his father, Rabbi Hyrcanus, came to him, to Rabbi Eliezer, and told him, my son, I came today to tell you that I am taking away all your money from you, and I'm passing it to your children, to your brothers, to the rest of my children, but instead of that, I'm doing the opposite, and I'm going to take the money from them, and I'm giving it all to you. So Rabbi Eliezer looked at his father in his humble look and told him, my father, if I would want to have money, I would ask from God to give me money. But all I was asking was His only Torah, and therefore I got the Torah. I don't want money, I'm only wanting and willing to have Torah, and this is my happiness and my joy, and I don't want your money at all. You thought that this is the end of the story, but when I said before, wait to the end, I meant on that new part of this story. So then Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus became so famous and known in the nation of Israel, and many of his quotes are written in the Gemara, in the Talmud, and famous, and became the rabbi of Rabbi Akiva. There is a story in the Gemara that is telling about Rabbi Eliezer Agadol. Rabbi Eliezer Agadol and Chachamim and the sages were arguing about a certain halacha, about a stove, about an oven. They had ovens that were made out of stone back then in those days, clay or stone, and they were talking about how to kosher, how to make that oven pure if it been contaminated. And they had an argument about the option of breaking the oven to parts until you won't be able to say that's an oven, to take away the name oven from that thing, and then to rebuild it. And if by breaking it, the argument was, if by breaking it to pieces and then it is losing the name oven, you cannot call it an oven anymore, and then you're building it back, is the contamination coming back to that oven, or that it's disappearing from the oven because it's a new oven now? So they had an argument if the contamination is coming back to the oven after building it, after breaking it to pieces, or if it's disappearing while losing the name oven from it. Because contamination is a spirit of contamination. It's not filth. It's not something like a stain or something like that, that if it's there, it's there. It's a spirit. It's a bad spirit, contamination. So so that was their argument, and all the sages, all the Chachamim, they had one opinion on that. All of them, they had one opinion about that, and only Rabbi Eliezer Agadol, he had an opposite opinion against them. and they were arguing. One is saying it's pure, and one side is saying it's pure, one side is saying it's impure, and you can never fix it. And the argument went harder and harder and stronger. Everyone on one side and Rabbi Eliezer on the other side. And then Rabbi Eliezer said to the sages, he told them, listen, if I'm right, the stream of the water will agree with me, will be the evidence for that. And suddenly the stream of water started to flow in the opposite direction. The water went up the hill. And the sages stood in front of him, saw that wonder, and they said, even though that we saw that wonder, we're not learning halakha, we cannot take that as an evidence for our learning. And he said, okay, if I am right, so the carob tree will be an evidence. And a carob tree that was standing over there uproot itself to the air and fly 70 meters to the other side and plant itself over there. So they saw a wonder. A tree went up in the air, left the ground, fly 70 meters and plant itself elsewhere. They saw a wonder. But they said again, even though it's a wonder, we're not accepting that as an evidence to your claims. He said, okay, so the wall will prove. And there was a huge wall over there that was about to fall, and a word being said, and the wall stood in an angle in the side like that, and didn't fall, and didn't collapse, didn't crash down to the ground. And they saw that wonder as well. It was tilting and standing in the air. And they said, even though we saw that wonder, we cannot accept that as a proof for your argument. And then he said, okay, a voice from heaven will prove. And then they all heard a voice from heaven. An angel came out from the sky and said, Bat Kol, it's called. That voice came out, a sound from the sky, and said that the halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurcanus. That the halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. And the sages that were there, the chachamim, the wise ones, they said, even though we heard that voice, we are not learning halacha from voices in the sky. Only the debate in the rules of the Torah to find the real truth, what the real truth is, if you're going to bring an evidence to convince us, we'll take it. Just voices, and you have not convinced us yet. We're not learning halacha from voices from heaven. And then Rabbi Eliezer said, I disagree with you. And they told him, listen, if you are disagreeing with all of us, we need to excommunicate you. It's a rule in the halakha that he will be in nidui. People are not allowed to pray with him. People are not allowed to sit and learn Torah with him. It's a very hard rule. If you're fighting with chachamim and you're not surrendering to the general opinion of chachamim, you might be risking yourself with that punishment that calls nidui, to be separated from the chachamim. And he said, it's your choice. I know that that is the right way and that is the halacha, and with that I'm going to stay. And he was in that nidui status from that day and on. On his deathbed, all his students and wise people of that generation came to him to say goodbye to him, to speak with him. And he lied in his bed, and Rabbi Akiva was with the rest of the students over there, coming to see him for the last time in their life. And then he looked at them and he told them, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but unfortunately something horrible will take place, and all of you, there were 10 people over there, all of you will die before your time. Something bad will happen to you. And point his finger to Rabbi Akiva, your death will be the worst of them all. Everyone else will die in a weird way, but you will die in the worst, most painful way of them all. And Rabbi Akiva asked him, for what? Why am I being punished? So he told him, for the fact that you were able to assist me, to help me, to learn Torah from me, and you didn't. You were able to, it's not a punishment from Rabbi Eliezer, it's a punishment from heaven, that in heaven there was a judgment on the sages that made the the 10 people that were close to Rabbi Eliezer on his deathbed must pay for a certain trial that was hanged in heaven for many generations for the 10 brothers of Yosef that sold him to the Ishmaelim, and because the holy tribes sold their brother Yosef, and those sages in that generation, they did not cooperate with Eliezer, they were not flowing and supporting the opinion of Eliezer Agadol, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus, they were punished instead of the 10 tribes for the death of Yosef, for the selling of Yosef, for them to sell, for the fact that they sold Yosef. And they all been punished after that. And Rabbi Akiva looked at his teacher, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus, and told him, okay, so we still have time now. Can you teach me Torah now? So Rabbi Eliezer told him, of course, and he started teaching him Torah. Fire started to surround the house. Flames of fire surrounded the house, and all the sages that were there ran out of the house except for Rabbi Eliezer that was in his bed, and Rabbi Akiva, his student, standing by his side. And he is teaching Rabbi Akiva, and fire is surrounding the house, and no one can stand in that fire except of him and Rabbi Akiva for 2 long hours. 2 long hours Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus was teaching Rabbi Akiva Torah until Rabbi Akiva started screaming. And he was screaming, I cannot stand it anymore, it's too much, it's too high, it's too hot, it's too... whatever, it was too much for him to learn. And Rabbi Akiva started crying and screaming his head off, I cannot learn anymore. Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus looked at him and told him, I'm rising to the sky with the tablets in my hands. And he meant that he was not able to pass the tablets like Moses to the nation of Israel in Mount Sinai. He was not able to pass the tablets, the Torah that he was holding in his hands, to the next generation, to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva didn't have the vessels to learn all the Torah from his rabbi, from Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus passed away, went back to heaven, holding the spiritual tablets of his Torah in his hands, and passed away to a world that is all good. When Rabbi Akiva left the house, he said, I earned Torah from my rabbi, learned Torah from my teacher, like a dog that is licking water from the ocean. The tiny amount that a thirsty dog will drink from the ocean, how much it's going to affect the ocean? It's a joke. It's nothing compared to the amount of water that are filling the ocean. That's how Rabbi Akiva felt about all of what he achieved from his teacher that was full of Torah. That teacher was Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus, that started his Torah learning when he was 27 years old, didn't know how to say Kriyat Shema and how to say Birkat Hamazon. That is the main class for you, for me, that we should be strong and consistent and stubborn to do what we believe in, even if we feel that we are weak, even if we feel that we are broken, even if we are so lost and confused and think that life is in such darkness. Be strong and believe in yourselves, because the Creator, He loves you, and He will keep on washing us and purifying us and planting those seeds of success in our spirits for us to grow and bloom and shine forever. Thank you.